Welcome back, y'all, and happy Friday. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. We have a lot of things to talk about today. Number one, we're not going to talk about this, but our baseball teams in the semifinals coming up tomorrow versus Vanderbilt. I think that the game starts at 1. So, that's the Tennessee's in a spot right now, y'all, that I think is a perfect spot for the baseball team where we really need to be like in a do or die situation to try to, I guess, kind of like turn up the whole vibe of the team. And I was talking to P about this maybe like a couple of days ago. He's the first person that saw that we had some issues with our hitting, with our bats, and most of us kind of was like, I don't know about that, but P is he really knows baseball. He has a better eye for it than I do personally. But either way, it feels like the bats are starting to heat up. The defense has been a pretty big issue. Like I said, we're not really going to talk about that today. We might talk about it some tomorrow, but it's a big deal because that's a game that we have to win versus one of our rivals. And, Tennessee's trying to host. So I think that's going to end up really helping this team out once we get to the big tournament. And I think that we're going to shock some folks. I know that there's a lot of folks that maybe packed it in for this baseball team, but I'm not there quite yet. It's because we're still talented. We just feels like something might be going on with the team, and maybe they're just starting to get over it. So it's all about with baseball, basketball, peaking at the right time, peaking once you get to the postseason. I think that we might be doing that, we're finding some new pitchers and things like that. But either way, it's a big weekend just kind of based off of that with the SEC tournament. But then also, we've got this 865 Live where we're going to have a lot of players coming up. We're going to take a look at that list, break it down, talk about what coaches are doing the best job of bringing up talent. I can tell you, I've got some insight to it. I feel like you'll be able to tell which coaches are doing a good job with these players, with these high school players. And I think that a change might need to be made in some areas. Not that it doesn't mean that someone needs to get fired, but I think maybe we need to try to go out and if we got to hire somebody else to help us with that, then we probably need to do that. But we'll talk about some of the key players that Tennessee really needs to close in on. And also, we're going to take a look at Tennessee's roster. We're going to break this thing down. I'm talking about Tennessee's football roster. We're going to break it down and look at what the players' ratings are from 24/7 Sports. I'll put my own personal ratings in for these players just to give y'all like a little bit of a glimpse of, where the team is strong at, where the team's weak at. And, we'll also take a look at our schedule because I think that it might be, it's like top 3 weakest schedules in the SEC. But either way, we have a lot of things that we need to get to. So let's go ahead and get it started. As always, y'all, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And I want to start off right here, man. Let's take a look at Tennessee's 865 Live, right? So there's 26 players that it looks like Tennessee thinks will come. Doesn't mean that this is everybody. Maybe somebody might end up coming that's not on this list. But I have this ordered based off of their on-3 player rating. So this one's going to be based off of the on-3. And once we get to the actual team roster, our current team roster, that's going to be off of 24/7 Sports. But I'm going to go on ahead and zoom this thing in for y'all. And let me know, man, if y'all are in here now, just let me know in the chat if you can see everything or if you want it to be a little bit bigger because that'll help me to know where we need to be at. So starting off here at the top, the only player that's not going to be in order is going to be Iverson Garcia because he doesn't have a rating with on-3. He's a 3-star with a couple of other sites, but he's going to be up. And then, everybody that's in orange is already, they're already in the boat for Tennessee. I think it's big that Carson Snead is coming up. But looking at this list, the biggest thing that stands out to me is look at all the players on defense. So you can see right here, Joe Wyatt, who's listed as an athlete. Tennessee actually wants him to play I think like Leo for us, which is kind of crazy to me because he's 6'4", like a $190. He's going to have to gain a lot of weight to be able to play up front for our team. But, he could definitely do it. I can tell you that. I like him maybe more safety, but he's just do it all sort of a player. So he's a guy that's up here that looks like athlete, but he's actually going to be, for us, we're looking at him to play on defense with our line. So, look at all these edge players, right? Look at all these edge players, just the front 7. Those are the coaches that are doing a great job with this team. Coach Inge, Coach Garner, Coach Chop, Coach Ayers. Like we've seen it. Part of it is going to be because we have guys like James Pierce going pro, but Coach Inge, he hasn't really had any players going pro. You know what I'm saying? But at least not with Tennessee. But I think people vibe well with him. He's a real teacher, and I think that for me, whenever I was coming out, looking at some of the other players that I've known coming out, some of my other family members or friends or whatever, looking at my nephew now. One of the things that I'm definitely looking for is can you teach? Can you get, can you get us better? And I think the Coach N shows that. He's got a kind of like quirky personality, which is kind of corny, but at the same time, you could tell that he has a genuine passion for the game. So I think his personality meshes very, very well. You don't see too much on our offense, right? You see a couple of offensive linemen. I think that we did a good job going out and getting Gabriel, who is he's a 5-star with 24/7 Sports. I'm happy to see that he's rated highly there. He's a 4-star with On3. And so I think we're doing a pretty good job there. But you don't see too many wide receivers. I think that the only wide receivers might be one from 2026. That's an in-state guy. I think he's from Greenville. And then we've got, I think it's a guy or two, maybe from the 2027 class. So off to a pretty decent start there. But, we've got one running back that we're going to talk about today. And then we've got, obviously we've got a couple of safeties. So Craig Tut's one in-state guy. I've been very vocal. I think we got to do a great job with the in-state. And if you look on over here, so I've got a lot of information here, but looking over here, you can see the state that all these players are coming from. Most of them will be from Tennessee. So we've got to be able to lock down our own borders, and then we got to be able to go out to like Georgia, to North Carolina, to just the whole Southeast. So I like the fact that that's part of the strategy. Let's start it off, with the number one area that's going to be huge for us. So that's a really good thing. But we got a couple safeties coming in. Like I said, Craig Tutt, we've looked at his film several times. So players that we've already kind of looked at their film, we won't bring that back up. But, we've got another one in here. Where is he at? Corey. Let me see. It's Corey Harbin, I think. So, we're going to take a look at his film. We've got Latimer coming up. Was hoping that we could get Tristan Keys. He's not on this list. Savion Hitter, he's not on this list. So saying all these things just to say that Tennessee needs to, I would say, step it up in with our wide receivers, and really just with the offense, period. I mean, if there's anything that maybe bothers me some, or maybe not even bothers me, I would say that maybe worries me some, is that the offense is not going out and getting talent at the same clip necessarily, at least not with this class. Doesn't really feel like we're going to close out on too many blue chip players with our offense, especially a wide receiver. I think that running back's doing a pretty good job. I think that Coach Sims, he's still new here, but I think he's doing a solid job. He's at least getting players up. Who else? Offensive line coach E, I think he's doing a pretty solid job. We've already talked about that. Coach Abe is doing a great job. Now, Carson Snead coming back up. Like we said, he's going to take some visits. A lot of folks are wondering, will he stick with Tennessee? I don't know. I mean, it's a good sign that he's coming to the 865 Live. And then, there's several players that will be coming on some OVs. You can see that list here. There's several of them that we've got that are listed to be coming up on OVs with Tennessee. But either way, I want to start jumping into some of these players' film. Okay, so hopefully y'all can see all of this. And let me see. This one right here is from Super High Five. What's going on, bro? Saying, do you think we actually have a chance with Snead? Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that we have a chance with him. It's just a matter of, I guess, we're going to really have to close out hard, because there's other programs that want him. I told y'all, I think to me, he's like a baby Gronk. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean that like as a slight to him, but obviously Gronk is one of the best tight ends in NFL history. He was unstoppable just because of his size, because of his strength. And I think that there's a lot of things with Carson Snead, who's about 6'6" now. He ain't done growing. I mean, he's probably going to be in 6'7", 6'8". He's a just big, strong, powerful guy. He's a quarterback's best friend. That's exactly what we need. So, yeah, I mean, obviously he's a guy that we're really looking at. The one kid that we have talked about before, his name was Matt Ludwig or something like that. I think he just chose Michigan. So he's off of our board. Tennessee's still looking at some other tight ends, but I think we have a good shot with him. I don't know. Obviously, his brother going to UNC, that's probably not the best look, but maybe that was the best thing just for him. Like, we've got Caleb Herring, his brother, went to I think he went to Memphis or something, and now I think he's at FSU. So, it's not like a slam dunk guarantee that just because his brother goes to a different school that he's going to end up going to. But either way, the few players that I want to talk about today that I feel like Tennessee really wants to close out on, number one, this class, I think, is we've got some really good players here. Let me just say that, okay? We've got some really, really good players inside of our class. Some of them are definitely underrated. We talk about that all the time. But it feels like one of the biggest strong points of what we're trying to focus on is with our Leos, with the edge rushers. And this right here is Tristan Givens. He's one of the highest rated players that's coming up for the 865 Live. And you can see him here catching the football. He's a tremendous athlete. He's from the state of Georgia. And I love to see these young high school kids, y'all, that show some pass rush moves. He's got a lot of that. So you might look at that and say, well, maybe his ceiling isn't as high. But for me, it's like, dude, he's just got more time to get the pass rush moves right, to get them crisper, get them better. So I love his game, and it feels like he might be leaning more towards Texas A&M. So Tennessee was, I think, his leader, but him coming up, I think tomorrow, he might be there at some point today. But either way, coming up for this weekend, we have a chance to get ourselves back at number one. So in this category, or in this situation, the rich are just getting richer, man. Like Tennessee is so loaded up front, and y'all will see that once we get into the actual roster. So he's the first player that I feel like Tennessee really wants to close out on. I don't know how many Leos or pass rushing types of bodies that Tennessee wants to take in this class, but I would say he's one that we definitely want to close out on, because what we've already got, I think, two guys that are like edge rushers. I think that Tyson Bacon will be more like a strong side end, and then with the other guy that with Groves, I feel like he's more of like a Leo, but he could also play strong side end too. So we've got some room, but he would be, to me, he's number one on this list. You know what? I'm not going to say that he's number one. I think that Joel Wyatt would be number one for me. We won't look at him today because we've already looked at him so many times. But Joel Wyatt, just because he's so versatile, he'd be number one for me. But again, I like him more safety. Either way, let's go on to this next player right here. And just, I want to try to stick with the Leo types of bodies. We're going to go to Hezzy Harris, who is right now, like, he chose Auburn, but it feels like he's really trending towards Tennessee. So he'd be the next guy that I would really like to land. He's got a lot of versatility. He could play Leo for sure. He's not going to be as twitchy to me as Givens is, but he could also play strong side. So he's a bigger guy that covers a lot of ground. He'd be more like a bull rusher. Don't see a whole lot of pass rush moves. So you could look at him and say, well, shoot, maybe he's got the higher ceiling, right? Because you could teach him those moves. For me, this doesn't feel like players, like, if they don't really have pass rush moves, it's like, I don't know why. It's hard for them to learn it. It's not natural to them. So you either have the natural pass rush moves for the most part, or you don't. But either way, I think that he's such a just tremendous athlete that he can still get to the quarterback. He can still beat off blocks. I think that he's going to be good with a lot of the read option stuff. So you can put him in space some. He's not as much of a true Leo where you want to drop him in coverage, at least not to me right now. But either way, he's a tremendous, tremendous player. I think he's a great athlete, and he's exactly what Tennessee wants to add to this class. Keep in mind, and y'all will see this as we go throughout the roster, but man, Tennessee could end up, we might be kind of shorthanded next season as far as our Leos go. It's going to be a lot of use. So I think that the players should want to come here. And really, as I'm talking about this, y'all, something that I feel like we all need to be more vocal with for Tennessee, to help Tennessee. If you're in a situation where you are frequently seeing some really good players, some blue chip caliber players, whether you got kids that are in high school, whether whatever, maybe your neighbors with them. I don't care how maybe you're a teacher, whatever. We need to make sure that the kids understand that Tennessee, while we're not the only team, we're not the only school that is fighting for the players' rights, we're like the face of it. I mean, Danny White came out, put his, he came out and he was vocal. He was with his face, with his voice, vocal, not just for himself, but for the university. And that's what the players want. And I might make some shirts, seriously. And it just says something like, I don't even know what it's going to, something like, Tennessee fights for the players. Does the school that you like fight for them, or something? I mean, obviously that's not catchy, but I'll sit down and find a way to make it catchy. The whole point here is, I think that this list, while it's smaller, it's more quality and not as much quantity. The list of the players coming up for the 865 Live, like I said, those players are the ones that really like Tennessee. We have a very strong chance of landing them, especially if they're coming back for their OV. Very high chance that we're going to land the ones that we want. But it's critical that they understand that Tennessee has their best interest. That's what the players like. That's what their families want. They want somebody that, hey, this school, this AD, this chancellor, this coaching staff, those players, this fan base, they have my child's best interest. Like, they want what's best for my child. And that, I think, is going to be huge. And, this list, again, while it's more quality over quantity, which is probably how you want it to be in a situation like this, you want to try to keep it as intimate as possible. But, maybe moving forward, this list could be nothing but just straight up blue chip players. You know what I'm saying? And that is where I think Tennessee really wants to be. So hopefully y'all can see everything that I have up here. We're going to go on to the next player, though. And this is going to be Braden Rouse. So Braden Rouse is a guy from Georgia. He plays linebacker. He's got really good size. He could probably also be like an edge rusher, so kind of like a Leo sort of a player. But we're going after versatility. Like I said, Coach Inge, Coach Garner, Coach Chop, Coach Ayers, doing the best job on this staff of just consistently bringing up really, really good talent. Feel like he really likes Tennessee. Now, this is not going to be an easy one because everybody wants him, just like everybody else that we've talked about. Everybody wants these guys, but I love his versatility to be able to, it also kind of feels like Tennessee's going after some players that you can look at their high school highlights and you're seeing a lot of clips on offense. And I'm talking about just with our players that play on defense. Whenever you know offense, defense, special teams, it's a lot easier for you to learn new systems, for you to grasp the concept because you understand the overall concept of what football is. But I think that him playing at Kell, here in Georgia, that's a really good program. They've put out a lot of blue chip caliber players for a long time. So he understands what it's all about. But him coming up is huge. He's going to come up on his OV2, and I think that Tennessee's going to end up closing on him. So just again, very, very versatile player, very, very versatile athlete that I think Tennessee is in a great spot with. That linebacker room is going to be crazy moving forward. It's going to be one of the best in the whole country. And I sincerely mean that. Like, we've got so many guys that are big, strong, fast. They're dogs. Like, they want to hit you. They're real football players. So Coach is doing a phenomenal job. It's all about the front seven. Tennessee's front seven with our defense is great. And I think the front seven with our offense is actually very good too. But we've lost a couple of players. I still think that the offensive line's deep, but we had to be able to keep on bringing in more and more and more. So we'll see how everything plays out from that perspective. Now let's go on to the next player. This is going to be Latimer. This is the running back. And, I love him. He plays at Sandy Creek. That's a lower classification. I want to say, I'm not quite sure what class they're in the state of Georgia, but just looking at him in these clips, he's like 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, but see how big he looks. That's the sign that you're probably playing in a smaller classification. But I think that he is just a stud. Tennessee's going out trying to get the bigger running backs, big ones and small ones. Why not be able to mix it up some? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something that I feel like a lot of programs have kind of, not even just with college, but I think in the NFL too, like they find a back type and they stick to that one type. But what happened to hey, we got a big guy, then we got a small guy to, throw the whole defense up? I think that is huge because you can switch up the schemes and all that. But with the way that Tennessee spreads out the football field, you're going to be facing a lot of lighter boxes, and it's going to be tough with a really good offensive line, number one, but then with a guy that's this big, that'll run through contact, that's got really good straight line speed, that has good hands. And we'll talk about it, but I think the Tennessee's running backs are going to catch the football coming out of the backfield a lot more this season versus 2024, versus the past couple of years where we're asking them to stand in there and daggum block, which, sometimes you have to, but you can offset the pressure that the defense is bringing by sending them out on routes, making the people that are blitzing have to cover them. If you don't cover them, these people are wide open. So really versatile. I would be really happy if Tennessee could end up landing him. I know that Savion Hitter is the higher rated guy, but there's a lot of similarities within their game. So we'll see. Now, Savion Hitter, again, he's not coming up. It doesn't sound like he's going to come up for the 865 Live. We got a lot of competition there. It's Michigan, who I think that's the real competition. Georgia's up there too. The Buckeyes, I don't think that they're – I think it's probably Tennessee and Michigan at this point. But he will be coming up on an OV. I think he's set to come up on the 20th. That's our big visit weekend. So I think Tennessee's still in a good spot. Maybe we could land him. But, you can't just – I'm curious. Would the staff say if Latimer wants to pull the trigger and come to Tennessee, do you say, hey, we got to wait on Savion Hitter? Or do you say, hey, we'll take both of these guys if we absolutely have to? That's where I'm at. Hey, load up as many good players as you possibly can and then just let everything else kind of like fall as it may. But either way, I think that he is really, really good. So the last player that we're going to be talking about right here, so this is the kid, Corey Hadler, and, he's playing at safety. I like what I'm seeing from him at safety. You can see it right there. He's a daggum thumper. I think he looks pretty good in his coverage. He's listed at 6 feet, 180 pounds. So that's not that big. That's about, it's almost like cornerback size, right? So, he looks a lot bigger than that, though, just watching his film. I'm looking at a guy that, for me, he's more of like a box safety, more of like a strong safety. He's got some pretty good cover skills. But, I'm thinking, dude, what if you could throw 30 or 40 pounds on this kid? Now we're talking about one of the best linebackers in this whole class, because I actually think that he has he has a higher ceiling. He has more upside playing at linebacker based off of the way he's moving and all of that. And of course, these guys are going to keep on getting better, but I think he's good. So let me not, I don't want to make it sound like I don't think he's really, really good, but I'm curious if the staff maybe sees it that same way. Is he a guy that you feel comfortable with throwing a bunch of weight on him and all of a sudden, dude, I mean, your linebacker room just gets filthy. Of course, we need to go out and add some safety. That's a spot Tennessee's not doing a good job. I can tell you that right here, right now. Kids like Coach Nez, who's our cornerback coach, I can tell you that for sure. We might have to go out and find somebody to talk to the players, that are safeties. You know what I'm saying? Like, we might need somebody to go out and, maybe be more of the face for the wide receivers. Maybe in some situations also for the offensive line. I just think that's where Tennessee's not doing as well at. It's kind of like based off of what I've heard. So, we'll see if some changes get made there. Obviously, you'd have to hire somebody as like an analyst and say, hey, your whole job is just to go out and bring in these players. And maybe we talked about Coach Allen Williams coming in, and I said, could he take over safeties for us? Just take over for us? And then let Coach Banks just focus on defense. Hey, you don't have to worry about talking to the players. You just post the daggum defense, and that's it. I mean, you got to talk to them sometimes, but that's kind of like where I'm at. We got to find somebody to fill in for some of the what feels like to me some coaches that probably need to take a step forward, just as far as bringing in really, really good talent. But yeah, so he's a good player. He's another versatile guy that obviously he would be a good safety add, but I might like him a little bit more if he is playing at linebacker. So let's go on ahead and switch gears real quick, and let's talk about Tennessee's roster. Let's go through this depth chart. I'm gonna get to this right here from DNA VFL, saying, "Are you hearing how we'd play Wyatt as a safety more so than a wide receiver? I like to see him in a Sean Taylor, Dale Carter role." Go be going, hey, that's a hell of a point. I love how you talking, dog. I'm on the same page with you. But what I've actually heard from some of the insiders is that they actually want Joel Wyatt to be like an edge rusher, which, I mean, I think that he could do it. I definitely do. I almost wish that I put his highlights in here. But if you haven't seen him, y'all can go and check it out. We've got other videos that kind of break that down. But, it would just take so much weight for him to have to gain. I think that he's a good enough athlete. I mean, and that's what makes it crazy. If you have a guy that is that tall, that can fill out that much, and is such a good athlete out in space as a skill guy, but you feel like, hey, this guy could play in our front seven, you might want to put him at linebacker. So, I mean, just having that type of versatility, that makes your defense crazy. And like you said, like a Sean Taylor, like a Dale Carter type of a role where, you can move them in a whole lot of different places where, they can make a lot of, think about a daggum, Sean Taylor, Dale Carter hybrid, which I would almost call like an Eric Berry, which, I mean, that might sound crazy, but to me, obviously, looking at Dale, he was a guy that his coverage was outstanding. I've, been watching some highlights on coverage was really good. He would hit you. Sean Taylor, really same thing. But to me, whenever I think of Sean Taylor, I understand that his coverage was great, but I think about, dude, he would flat out lay you out. But Eric Berry, I think he's a good combination of both of those things. I don't know if Joel Wyatt is quite that sort of an athlete, but I get your point is what I'm saying. And using him as kind of like a gadget piece for your defense, that's crazy. Offense is like, it's tough to be able to game plan for that. Really tough. You have to watch a ton of film, and you got to do extra stuff to be able to game prep for one guy that could wreck the whole game from all three levels. That's insane. But either way, let's go on to this. Let's go into our roster. We're going to start off with our quarterbacks. And, I've shown y'all my personal grades for the quarterbacks in a previous video where I'm breaking everybody down. And then you've also got the 24/7 sports ratings. You can see up at the top how many blue chip players we have inside of this room. We're not going to, go through the whole room for every single spot. It's more going to be about who's going to be the starters. And we know that we don't know who's going to be the starter at quarterback. I feel like it might end up being Joey. Listening to Urban Meyer talk about him. And, in this whole situation, obviously Urban Meyer, I don't care for him, as a person, but as a coach, you got to listen to what he says, honestly speaking. Now, he was a hell of a coach. Might not have necessarily been the best person, just based off of some speculation and what we've heard. It looks like some of the, how he's moving. I don't feel like he's the best person, but as a coach, I think he knows ball. But I think that he's off on this with Joey. I think that because of Tennessee's system, I think that he fits our system well. And I think that he could thrive. I think that all these guys could probably thrive, but he's the only one that's not listed as a blue chip caliber player, which is a 4 or a 5-star from 24/7 Sports. It doesn't mean that he can't ball. He's the older guy. So he's going to be he's going to be at a further spot than these underclassmen, but it will be a straight up battle. Y'all can see the averages down at the bottom. I also did this for y'all. I looked at where I think that their weight's going to be with some of these players, so like I've got Merck at 220. I think he's listed at like 215. I think he's going to get up to about 220 pounds. He's going to put in the work. I think the GMAC, who I think is listed at like $190, I got him up to 210 pounds. So I think, again, these guys are going to put in work. Joey Aguilar doesn't need to, I don't feel like, gain any weight. He's at a good size. If anything, he might try to cut some pounds so that he's a little bit more mobile and agile and things like that. But yeah, I think that this is just as far as the rooms, this will be one that I'm saying if their floor is higher than maybe what I think, because if you look at their grades, if you look at the average grades, it's not, this is one of the lower rooms that I have on Tennessee's roster. And it's funny because a lot of times the on-3 rankings or the on-3 ratings, it correlates very closely to what my grades are. I didn't do that. I didn't try to do that, but it ended up being like that. But I'm just saying all that just to say this is a room that obviously everyone has a lot of question marks with, but I'm optimistic that these guys can get things done. So let's go on to the next one. Let's go into this next room, baby. All right, so offensive line. I love this room. So this is just our starting five, what I think is going to look like. Obviously, Lance Hurd is the only starter that's coming back from last season. He will start. Y'all can see. For them, I just split up with the run blocking, with the pass blocking. If y'all can't see anything that I got up here, y'all please let me know ASAP, because I don't want to have any more technical difficulties. For my dog T and Jim, what's going on, bro? Saying that he's hoping that the floor is higher than he expects in the quarterback room. I do too, bro. And if that room is, if the floor is higher, I don't think that the ceiling has to be, through the roof, like Jordan would say. I don't think that it has to be that way, but I think that their floor needs to be pretty high. We can't just have them playing poorly. But either way, the offensive line is going to help them out. I think that the offensive line, Tennessee scheme change, where it's not going to be as much vertical stuff. We're going to have a lot more crossing patterns, which is easier for the wide receivers. It's an easier read for the quarterbacks. You get people open. We'll talk about all of it. It's easier for the offensive line. They don't have to hold blocks as long, right? Because we're not waiting forever for people to get open with our choice routes that have been pretty much vertical. I think that we'll try to mix in some more horizontal side-to-side type of stuff. And I just think that everything's going to be very, very beneficial for the quarterbacks. But again, also for the offensive line. But so I would say that Lance Hurd, he's looked good. I think that he's gotten better. Obviously, last season he was out of shape. I think whenever he came in, then he missed about a month, came back way out of shape. So for most of the season, he was fighting to try to get in shape. He was fighting through some injuries, as he's told us. So we will see a much better Lance Hurd. You can see what his rating was with 24/7 Sports. But yeah, I've got him locked in as our starter for sure. You can see that I've got him as a guy that his run blocking is good. I think his pass blocking might not be the best on this offensive line, but it could. And this is about to start the season off. It's only going to get better for all these guys as we go throughout. But next, at left guard, of course, I've got Wendell Moore. He's the only player that I think is going to start for us that isn't listed as a blue chip caliber player with 24/7 Sports. But watching his film, I love his game. Y'all are going to love him. I can almost guarantee that. He is a dog, and he's like a one-man wall. It's very tough. And I watched probably every single snap that he had last season. As a matter of fact, I have every single snap that he had last year. It's really rare that he ever gets beat. He's a shorter guy, but he's got, I think, long arms. He moves very, very well. Y'all can also see what the average sizes are. I'll say this real quick. This offensive line is going to be smaller than it was last year, just looking at the average sizes. But that's part of, again, going to the scheme change, where a lot of what Tennessee's running game looked like was, hey, spread the field out, run inside zone, which just means we're running it right up the middle. And then, you'll have some power plays. You'll have your counter plays and all of that. But it wasn't as much outside zone, wasn't as much stretch plays. The way the defenses play Tennessee's offense with that mint front, with the lighter box, one of the ways that you can beat it is with that stretch play. You need the kind of like smaller, faster offensive linemen to run those stretch plays. And I think that our scheme is what's going to help Tennessee out the absolute most. But for his size, which I think is going to drop down to, what I have him here. I have him at 330. He might get down to about 325. I think I might have heard that. He might even be at 320. Either way, at 335, 340 is what he played at last season. Dude, he can freaking move. So love his game. Y'all can see I've got his pass blocking really, really high at 95. I've got his run blocking at a 92. So center, I've got William Satterwhite. I don't know what y'all think about it, but it could end up being maybe like a Sam Pendleton. It could end up being a Jesse Perry. Jesse Perry's not a blue chip caliber player. And just to also let y'all know, for Tennessee's offensive line, we have a total of 8 blue chip caliber players. But Jesse Perry, he's not one of them, but he's one of the better offensive linemen on this team. So that part of it could look different. Maybe William Satterwhite doesn't get the start, but I think that he will end up getting that start. So y'all can see how I have him kind of slotted out, how his grades look. Then the next player I have next to him at right guard is going to be Sam Pendleton. I think he's really freaking good. I think that his pass blocking is going to be better than what we saw last season. His run blocking is going to be good too. He's a guy that he can win. He can win with power for sure, but I think that he's more of a body placement guy. He's more of like a technique kind of a guy. So I think that he's going to be perfect for the way that we're going to add some wrinkles to our scheme. And then I have David Sanders start, and that's another place that you could say, hey, are you sure? Like maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it's a Jesse Perry or, maybe Bennett Warren. I'm just saying it's possible. But I think that from what I saw in the orange and white game, I talked a lot about, I talked about Tyree West. I think that he's might be the best pass rusher on Tennessee's team this season. Watching them going head to head in that orange and white game, dude, David Sanders is a monster. He's a top 5 NFL draft pick whenever his chance comes, for sure. He's y'all can see how I have him graded out. I think he's going to be one of the better offensive linemen on this team, which is crazy to say because he's just a freshman. But just watching what he did versus a guy that's going to be one of the best pass rushers, one of the best edge guys in the whole SEC, in the whole country, I know that he's going to hold up. Now, is he going to be perfect? No, I'm not saying that. But for the most part, I think that he's going to I think that the quarterbacks will have the time, the running backs will have the running lanes. To me, his run blocking might be better than his daggone pass blocking. So let's go on to the running back. Speaking of the running game, and I'll put everybody up here just because we know who the top 2 is, right? It's going to be Bishop, it's going to be Peyton Lewis. But after that, I don't know. Looking at this room, one of the things that I feel like Tennessee can maybe get a little bit better with moving forward, it feels like we are trying to do that, is just like with the open field running. We have a lot of straight vertical runners, which is fine. You got to kind of take what you can get. That's how this offense is built. Spread them out, just go forward versus a light box and get your 5 or 6 yards. That's why, our running numbers have been outstanding. But that's the one area that I would say for everybody, for the whole room, just like as a whole, we could get a little bit better at. But you can see that I've got players kind of slotted out in, that some players have strengths here and strengths in other areas. But this is not necessarily in order of who I think the starters will be, because we know it's Bishop and it's Peyton Lewis. Who's going to be that third guy? You got Star Thomas transferring in, veteran guy. I think that his skill set, honestly speaking, might not be as good as the 2 freshmen, but he's playing more ball. So you just want to be able to trust him. It's like, come in as the third guy if we even rotate 3, and then you just don't turn the freaking football over. Don't blow play here. So maybe he could get it from that standpoint. Then you've got Justin Baker and you've got Morris. A lot of the insiders are higher on Morris than they are with Justin Baker. I think that as far as the open field running that I talked about, I've got Morris as the best guy there. Okay, I've got him as the second fastest and the best guy to make you miss out in the open field. But he's gained the weight. That's what I was worried about. Can he gain the weight and play on this level? He's already there. So I actually have him gaining a little bit more. I think he was listed at 192. I got him getting up to 195. I don't think he needs to gain too much weight because that is his play. That's his style of play. Is he needs to be fast. He needs to be able to move and make people miss. So I think he's going to be fine. But then Justin Baker, I'm gonna tell you, I've watched him go to work. Looking at his IG since they've been on this little summer break, all he's been doing is working. That's all he does all the time. And I'm sure that everybody else on this team probably should be in the exact same boat. They're probably all working. I don't know. I haven't seen it just because I'm not following everybody else, but I'm following him and I know his pedigree. I've, been close to him. Obviously, I've been able to watch him practice for such a long time that I know that his skill set is really, really good. And I don't think that he's just going to give up, being the 5th running back. But who knows, right? We'll see. Either way, I think that this room, I think that the yards and all that will take a step forward in 2025, mainly because of the offensive line, but also because we got a bunch of dogs inside of this room and the competition is only going to help us out. Let me go on to the next one here. This is the wide receivers. Everyone's been talking about this. And let me get to some of these right here from my dog Teen Jr. Saying that he truly hopes that Sat made the step and that he's a good kid and has a dog in him, that they just gotta get it out for sure. And saying that the rest of the line will be damn good. I concur with those thoughts, bro. You already know. Let me get to the next one here. Saying that they just have to gel. Yeah, so that's another part of it. How quickly does this new line gel? And something that might be good is that there's a lot of new kind of like there's a lot of new starters, right? Like, so it might maybe work for them to gel quicker because now you've got a guy that's the only veteran starter in Lance Hurd that's working with all these new players, and it could end up being a situation that could help us out so that they can gel. Most of them are having to learn, at the same clip. So either way, this is the wide receiver room. And we have 5 blue chips here. This is not everybody. I don't have Dotson. What I wanted to do is give you who I think the starting 3 is and then who their backups are. The top 3, that's just, that's our starters. But after that, it's not really in order. But y'all can see what I think about him. The only player that's not a blue chip is going to be Brazel. But at this point, I think that Brazel probably could have been rated as a 4-star, or he probably could be, just because he didn't have the best season last year. He had the most drops with 6. The second most, just as far as who's coming back this season, is going to be with Mike Matthews. He was tied in second place with Squirrel White, but obviously Squirrel White had a lot more snaps and targets than Mike Matthews did. So can they be more consistent? I think that Chris Brazel, second year inside of our system, and same thing for Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley. But Brazel's the one, he's the only vet inside of this room. I think he will take a big step forward. We talked about that in the previous stream, but I think he's the fastest guy in that room. I think that, again, going back to the scheme where, as we touched on, a lot more crossing patterns, which is going to be easier for the players to kind of like grasp those routes, and they're going to be able to get open. And typically, whenever you're running these crossing patterns, you're running that whole side of the field off. So if you're running the crossing pattern from this side of the field, you're going to run it off on that side so that over here, once it kind of meets, you're going to an open space. So we've got really good athletes that will make those easy catches coming from the quarterback, easier on the offensive line, and then they're going to have space to make some people miss. That's the place that I feel like this room also can maybe take a step forward at, is just in what do you do after the catch. But and I'm not even saying not really this room, but I think it's the spot that the wide receivers versus some of the previous years could definitely take that step forward, and I feel like they'll definitely do it. But either way, Brazel, expecting he's going to have a breakout year. He's the leader. And then we've got Matthews. We talked about him having the second most drops with, like the least amount of targets. Really, he had the most drops if you're looking at the targets that he had. But I think that he was really frustrated with the fact that he wasn't getting as many snaps and targets. So now it's going to be fully locked in. I mean, you could tell I'm right. We're sitting here watching spring practice. We said, dude, he just looks so dialed in. So, yeah, he's a freaking dog too, right? Look at his numbers here. I've got him and then I've got Braylon Staley, very similar with a lot of things. Do I actually have them? Okay, yeah. So they ended up tied. I did not do that on purpose. They ended up tied, but I've got about the same grade on him. A lot of folks tend to overlook Braylon Staley. He's a daggum dog. He's a freaking baller. I think after the catch is going to be a major problem. Fast guy. That probably going to start in the slot, but he could play inside or outside, right? So going on to these younger guys, Travis Smith, love his game. He's a dog. I think that he will play a lot. Then you've got Jefferson. He's a veteran guy. I don't want to say shocked, but I was like, dude, I didn't think he was going to be able to move as well as he did in the orange and white game coming off of a hip surgery. I think that he looked good there. He's only going to get better. So, you have to feel good about that, right? Like, you've got some guys that could really do a good job inside of the slot. Again, inside, outside guys. We're going to get them the ball out in the flats and things like that. It's going to be a problem. He's a guy that's almost like a running back playing a wide receiver just because of his stature. So love that. Use him as a gadget piece. We don't have Boo up here either, obviously, because Boo's not a full-time wide receiver. And then we've got guys like Ra Jackson, who, you're seeing the one-handed snags. We have so much talent, or we have so much quality talent inside of this room. It's just not deep enough to me. I would love for us to go out and just add another body. Just add somebody else. If we could do it, that's great. You feel more confident. You feel more comfortable. Because as long as this room stays healthy, I think that they're going to shock a lot of folks. But it's once we, knock on wood, it's like once we if something happens, then we are in a bad spot for sure. So either way, this is how I have everything graded out. Hopefully y'all had the opportunity to look over that. And now let's come on to the tight ends. I love this tight end room. Okay, so we've only got 3 players that are blue chip based off of 24/7 Sports. But I told y'all, I thought that Cole Harrison was I thought he was a blue chip caliber guy. I think I said the same thing about Miles Kitselman. Looking at his film, we were some of the only people that talked about, dude, he can actually run some good routes, and he's going to be a better wide receiver than what people thought, or he's going to be a better pass catcher than what people thought. It's not just about his blocking, but obviously he's a very physical player, understands it. And listen, y'all, he's expected to be back by the start of the season. What the insiders are saying is, hey, he won't do much over the summer, but whenever the season kicks off, he might be starting for you, okay? And that's huge, because then you got a guy like Ethan Davis, who you absolutely love him as a pass catcher. If his physicality takes a step forward, we've got two of the best tight ends in this league. And I'm telling you that because I've looked through all these rosters in the SEC. I'm telling you, our tight end room, to me, it's might not have the most players that are, really good tight ends, but I think that as far as, you don't need that many. Like Georgia, I think, has the most with 6 guys. that are blue chip caliber. But Tennessee's got, like these 4 guys here, these 4 or 5 guys here. They daggum, I think that they could play with the best of them. So love to see that. And then we've also got guys like Jack. Love his game. He's a physical guy. I actually think that this one, you might look at this and say, hey, this is in order, right? I think that Jack's probably going to be tight end number 3. And it's going to be a battle between him and Brain. Love Brain. He's got to gain some weight. I've actually got him gaining some weight. And like we said with Cole, who's going to be that 3rd tight end is the biggest question, maybe even 4th tight end. But I think that, outside of the top 2, hey, why not rotate from game to game? Hey, Jack, we're going to let you be the 3rd guy in this game. And then Brain, or maybe even in this half, in this quarter, and then Brain, you're going to come in. Hey, Cole, we're going to get you in here too. Get the guys on the freaking field, dude. Like that's something that I don't get. Get them on the field. All right. So love this room, and I think that we're in a really, really good spot here. We're going to have to lean on our tight ends. We're going to have to lean on our running game early on until the quarterbacks get comfortable. It's really about the confidence. If the quarterbacks play with the level of confidence that, and not even necessarily cocky, but man, look, don't be scared to daggum throw the ball into coverage sometimes, because you're going to have to manage the game for the most part. But in some of these tighter ones, we're going to look at the schedule. Some of these tighter ones, you got to make some throws to help us win. But I think that we got the guys who can definitely do that, right? So yeah, I think the tight room is going to be huge. Now let's talk about Tennessee's Leo room. I only have 3 guys here just because there's a lot of young guys. There's some players that are banged up that we just don't know about. So we'll look at the top 3. I think that Joshua Josephs is going to have a very, very good year. I actually, it's not that I think that the pass rush from our Leos might not be as good as it was last season. And obviously losing a guy like James Pierce, you might take a step back, but it's just kind of based off of what I've seen from these players. It's more about the closing. I think every single one of them could get to the quarterback, but can you close? I've got Jordan Ross as the best pass rusher for me inside of this room. But I think that the overall run stopping of our Leos is going to take a big step forward, and that's where everything starts off at. If you can stop the run, then pass rush, that'll get easier, right? Because you're stopping them or getting the tackles for loss. Hey, this is a 3rd and down rabbits package, baby. We coming after them, and then that's when you get to go hunt. So I think that they get that, and I think that it's going to be obviously a hell of a room. But I think maybe as far as our defense, this might be, and you know what, for our D-line, I could say for sure this is my personal lowest rated room. But obviously all those guys are blue chip. Tennessee's front on defense has 15 blue chip caliber players. I think that the team has a total of like 46 or 47. It's something like that. So most of them are on our defensive front. Like I said, man, our D-line coaches are doing a phenomenal job. Next, let's talk about strong side ends. I love this room. I think that the pass rush from this room is going to be better than it's been. So it's almost like flipped, right? Where you're getting more pass rush from your strong side ends, or you're getting a better pass rush from your strong side ends, and you're maybe getting better run stopping from your Leos than what you saw last season for both of those groups. Doesn't mean that it's that either thing, like whether it's the pass rush or whether it's the run stop, and takes a step back from either spot from last year. But I just think that those places will be taking a step forward versus last year. But Don Bailey, we've talked about him. He's a guy that, he'll probably end up starting off playing strong side end. I personally like him better playing at tackle. I think he's more of a 3 technique, honestly speaking. And I would want for Tyree West to get the started strong side end, because look at the grade that I gave him, y'all. 97 overall. I think he's a freaking beast. I think he's a stud. Run stopping, excellent. Pass rush, just tremendous. A strong guy that can beat you with power, quick twitch, quick step, bigger guy, right? Like 290 something. Daggum pass rush moves. You know what I'm saying? He knows how to use his leverage. Also, I love some of the pass rush moves that I've seen from Joshua Josephs too. Like watching them kind of like grab onto a player and then push themselves forward past them. That's the type of stuff that Aaron Donald used to do, and I don't know why more people aren't doing it. You know what I'm saying? But either way, I think that we're going to do a great job here. As far as the 3rd guy, I've got the other Tyree. Last year I think he was a step slower coming off of the hip deal. If he's gotten more acclimated, then he's going to be a major problem. I loved him coming out of high school, but then we've got some other guys, Carson Gentle, Kellen Lindstrom, who could play strong side or play at Leo. We've got some underclassmen. I love Marion Dodd, either one of these spots. Haven't really seen him play. I love Jaden Lofton at either one of these spots. So, we're really, really deep here, deeper than what you're seeing. But either way, you can see how strong I have this group with our front. So now let's go on to our tackles. Love this room too, y'all. Like we're talking about for sure, they'll take a step forward, I think, with the top 4 as far as pass rush goes. So we still have a couple of ways worth of really good pass rush. I put Campbell in here for my 4th guy because, previously I said that, it could end up being Dom Bailey, but just for the sake of this video, we're going to put Campbell there because I think that right behind Dom, or maybe close there with him, I think is going to end up being Campbell. I put some weight on him. He's listed at 282 now. He had to gain some weight because they said, hey, you're going to bump inside. He's going to keep on gaining weight. I think that he was, maybe a little bit gassed from gaining that weight so quickly, but now he should have gotten more acclimated to carrying that weight. And look, y'all, we've broke down his freaking film. He's going to be a problem now. Playing as a freshman in the trenches on the D line, it's about grown man strength. You either have that or you don't. I think he's got it. I think he's got the twitch. I think he's got the pop. We've got Charles House coming in. We've got Ethan Utley, who I love. He just has to gain some weight. But my whole point here is Nathan Robinson banged up. Wallace banged up. We don't know if he's going to play this for the rest of the year. But, I also love Nathan Robinson. I love the transfer guy too. But this is how I have it slotted out. The top three, I'm going to say the top four here. The pass rush is going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Tennessee loves to run stunts, which just means that, the tackles, the ends, they'll kind of like switch places. They'll kind of like cross. You're going to have one guy, maybe like the end. He's going to push that. He's going to try to hit that guard. And then you've got the tackle that's coming off of that without really anyone to block him. You bring a blitz with it with some linebackers that have speed. It's going to be a nightmare. I think that our pass rush, as far as the sack totals, as far as the pressure rates, takes a huge step forward in 2025. I think that we close more. Cannot wait to see those doggone dogs in Neyland because we didn't get a sack last season. I think we're gonna get a lot of them coming up in we got how many months we got coming up in a couple of months, right? So either way, coming up in 2 or 3 months, right? So yeah, love this room. Really, really high on this room. Next, we have our linebackers. Love this room too. I'm just showing the top 5 here because we have some guys that are freshmen that I love that are blue chip caliber that they haven't really done much so far. So it's gonna number one, they have to get healthy, but once they get healthy, I think that it will get the opportunity. You got AC, he's going to be the starter. Sounds like he's fully healthy. He's going to have a light summer. You got Jeremiah Thielander, who is he going to be the guy playing that's starting next to Aaron Carter, or is it going to be an Edwin Spillman? I think that that's our top 3. But love these guys. The thing that'll make the biggest difference with most of the players, as far as their grades coming from my standpoint, is going to be with the coverage. I think that Ariana Carter is going to have pretty solid coverage. I think that Jeremiah Thielander's coverage, it needs to take a step forward. Really, all these guys, their coverage needs to take a step forward. But now that they have a better understanding of, the different route combinations of the different, like being able to see, they're lined up like this. This is the down and distance. We've seen this so many times now. This is what they're probably going to try to do. Like that type of stuff, to understand it pre-snapping and use your eyes well and not get fooled. That'll help out tremendously with their coverage. So I think that takes a step forward. And then, we got guys like Bolton in here, who's a walk-on guy. He doesn't have any grades from 24/7 Sports, but I think that he's looked good. He's got really good size, as y'all can see. I think he's looked damn good over the course of spring. So he gives you some added depth there. He's a veteran player, been here for a very, very long time. And then you've got Jordan Burns, who, for me, he's got to gain some weight. I put some weight on him. He has to gain the weight. If he can gain 10 to 15 pounds, then he's going to be tremendous. Part of the reason I have his run stopping not as high as the other players is just because he has a tendency to kind of get pushed around because he doesn't have enough weight that's coming with him. He don't have enough pop from that standpoint. But once he gets that, he could be, honestly speaking, y'all, I think he's as good of an athlete as anybody else inside of this room. So super deep. Again, all those freshmen coming in, they're super talented, but I love this room as well. Y'all can see what the blue chips look like inside of the room. Let's go on to the cornerbacks. This is another good one. And I'm going to let me see if I can get to some of these chats real quick. All right, so this is one right here from T and Jr. saying that Kids turned into my favorite tight end. Yeah, man, dude, I'm gonna tell you, he is a beast. Like, he's got a different mindset, and I'm hoping that some of that, and I'm not taking a shot at Ethan Davis, but I'm hoping that, and I'm not gonna say hoping, I think that some of that has rubbed off on him. You know what I'm saying? Because whenever you come from playing basketball to playing football, and this is not everybody. I don't mean to paint I don't mean to paint with really wide strokes, but a lot of times playing a real combat sport or a physical sport like football versus basketball, you might think, oh, this is physical. We down here banging in the paint, but dog, it's totally different whenever you got grown men running at you full speed and you got to run into them full speed and it's going to hurt, but you got to do that over and over and over again. So the toughness part that comes from having grown up playing football is just totally different. But I think that maybe because Kit and because Ethan Davis are really tight now, sounds like they're like best friends. I think Ethan Davis called him his brother. I love to hear that. So with that being the case, I feel like a lot of that dog that Kit has is starting to rub off on Ethan Davis. That's exactly what we need. But yeah, that's an excellent point, dude. I mean, he's a hell of a leader, and I'm super proud of him. All right, so let's get to the next one right here, saying what wide receiver, in your opinion, is the most talented and has the most potential? Man, I'm gonna tell you, it's so tough because I think that they're all very, very talented. It's different skill sets, but it's hard for me to just pick one, just because they're going to be good at different things. Shoot, just as far as sheer ceiling, like I kind of want to go with. It's so hard because whenever you look at Ra, he's a bigger guy that he's going to make you miss after the catch. He makes crazy catches. I'm just talking about freshmen, but you look at Travis Smith. He's a bigger guy, might not have the best straight line speed, but the tough catches that he's going to make, I think is going to be just really, really strong. Dotson coming in, he's a speed guy. I think he's going to kill people with his speed. Looking at a guy like Brazel, he's so tall, he's so long, he can high point footballs in a way that nobody else can on this team. And he's also really fast, so he can take the top off. I think that he runs good routes too. And then you look at the guys, like Braylon Staley, like Mike Matthews, who I think are very similar with their games, kind of like, do it all types of players, right? Where they're going to make the tough catches, where they're going to get the yards after the catch, run really crisp routes that have great speed. Then you've got Jefferson, who I really like him too. Again, if he's fully healthy coming off of his hip, use him as a guy, kind of like a gadget piece where, hey, he's kind of like a running back that you can flex out and get the ball to him on some screens. He can run through folks. He can make you miss, or, get him the ball on some, sweep plays and things like that with the full head of steam. And you got a lot of folks out there blocking for him. And then you've got Boo Carter, who obviously we've talked a lot about. Love his game, love his skill set. And I think he's going to fit right in with, kind of like a hybrid of like a Mike Matthews, like a Braylon Staley, and then like a Jefferson. So there's a lot of talent. It's just all about how do they fit into different systems and, what does the situation call for? But it's hard for me to pick just one. I'm very high on that talent. I just think that we need some more depth right there. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So thank you for that question. And then we're going to get this one right here from Big D, saying that Tennessee needs to go all in on Tristan Keys, saving hitter, and Joel Wyatt, and let the other chips fall where they may. Yeah, I think that those are three guys that you definitely want to get. Savion Hitter would be such a game changer, but I think that there's some running backs like the one that we looked at earlier today. I think that they're very, very close with their skill set, so it wouldn't be as big of a drop-off. But with Tristan Keys, dude, it's going to be hard to replicate players like that. And I also think that Joel Wyatt is going to be really, really tough to replicate that. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the cornerback room. Y'all can see we have two blue chip players. That's the two guys that will be starting at some point this season. I don't know when we're going to be fully healthy, but probably by the Georgia game we'll be fully healthy. So look at the grades that I have for our two guys here. I mean, both of them, man coverage, zone coverage, whatever you want. They're also physical. I didn't even put the physicality in here because all our guys are dadgum physical. Like, they will hit you. They'll get off blocks. They're not afraid of anything. But I think that they're two of the best in the league, two of the absolute best. Okay. To start the season off for the first couple of games, I think it's definitely going to be Ricky Gibson starting in one corner. Then it could be J-Mac. Maybe it could be Colton Hood. Maybe it could be one of those other underclassmen. But what we're seeing here, I think that the biggest difference is going to be with the man-to-man coverage. I think it takes a little bit of a step down whenever you get to the next two on this list. The zone coverage, I mean, really everything kind of takes that step back. But zone coverage, I think that they'll be fine. And really both of those guys, whether it's J-Mac, whether it's Colton Hood, they could play outside corner or they could play at the star. I think that J-Mac's a better suited star player. We've seen them both play, star at their previous teams, but or nickel at their previous teams. But I just think that Colton Hood, he's got a little bit of a tendency, like I saw going versus the Big 12 teams, where he can get a little bit lost. Now, he was able to make up for it. Okay, he was able to make up for it and still make plays. But just the margin of error in the SEC, it's so different versus any other league where, dude, if you get beat off the line of scrimmage or if you get lost at the top of a route, that ball's there as soon as you just got lost. And, the speed difference is definitely going to be different. So either way, I think that we're deep here. I think that we're deeper than people might think. There's a lot of youth, but I think that those young guys can play. We've got freshmen coming in that their mindset is kind of like a veteran. That's what you're looking for. These guys are coming to work. They understand football on a really high level. We got guys that are sons of coaches that have played at, championship caliber programs and things like that, a lot of length. And I think that the length will help them out. So it'll be interesting to see what the top four really ends up looking like, but this is how I have it playing out at this point. Now, let's go on to the next one, y'all. Let's go on to the stars. Obviously, Boo Carter, he's the only blue chip caliber player that I have here. Now, again, we don't know. And this is just, y'all, listen, this is not everybody. It's just the top three, the players that I feel like have the best chance to play. I've got Marcus Gorey coming in maybe to back up Boo. You know what I'm saying? Also, just to give you a look at some different players, not to put the same players up here several times, but I think DeMarcus Gorey could definitely do it. He could play outside corner, he could play star, he could play safety. So versatile athlete. I think that he's got good size. I think I put a little bit of weight on him. I think he might have been at 185 or something in spring, 181, 185. I got him up to about $190. You probably want to be 190 and over if you're playing at star because you're kind of like a safety cornerback hybrid, kind of like a DB linebacker hybrid in some situations. But then after that, I've got William Wright, who's a walk-on guy. That's why there's no ratings there. But I think he's looked really good playing at outside corner. He's another one that you might give him a shot to play everywhere because we need some depth. I think that everybody probably needs to get cross-trained at safety some. Everybody, just because there's not enough players there as we will look at. But obviously looking at Boo, love his skill set, love his game. He's not going to be able to play at star as much, playing offense, defense, special teams. He's going to be, kind of like part-time, but mostly it'll still be star, I think, because that's what Tennessee needs him to play at the absolute most. So that's how that room looks. And now let's take a look at the safeties, right? So, this is everybody that I think is going to be playing safety. So there's only 4 players, only 1 vet. That's Andre Turrentine up at the top. And the biggest thing for me to point out with this, as far as my grades go, is that the system IQ for the players, it's going to be pretty low. This is the lowest system IQ on this whole team because there's so many players that are new, number one. But then also safety, you have to know so much. You have to know, almost as much at safety. It's not quite as much, but almost as much as at safety as you have to know playing at quarterback. You have to know everything. So there's a lot for these players to have to pick up. And if you can't clean things up, if you're not there to fix things whenever somebody else busts a coverage or whatever, someone misses a tackle, if as a safety you're not there, that's 6 points almost every single time. That's a big play every single time for sure. So it does scare me, but I really like Caleb Beasley. I think that Ed can come in and do some good things, but I've got Caleb Beasley probably getting the start. And, then I've got Ed maybe rotating in some. But then we've got a true freshman, Sidney Walton, is probably going to have to play too, unless somebody else from one of the different spots inside of our secondary can step up and play at safety. Saying all those things just to say that this is dangerously thin. I'm very, very concerned. This will be the other room. We talked about quarterback, but this is the other room that, man, if the floor is a lot higher than what I think is going to be, Tennessee's going to be in a great spot. I'm going to say it this way. If our quarterback room and if our safety room's floor, I'm not talking about the ceiling, but if the floor is higher than what I think, then Tennessee has a great shot to be a playoff team in 2025. So that's where I'm at with this whole roster, man. Hopefully y'all like that part of it. And then now I'm going to take a look at I got to bring this thing up for y'all, but I want to take a look at the roster. We'll kind of go through that briefly. I'll tell you the games that where I'm at, like, hey, what games is Tennessee going to win? Which ones do we still feel like maybe Tennessee's going to lose? So just bear with me while I'm getting that pulled up for you. Looks like this one right here. This should be it. And if y'all can't see it, let me know. I'm gonna give y'all a chance to chime in. Let me see here. I'm gonna get to some of these chats. Let me see, where do we leave off at? So right here saying that we need more 5 stars on our roster. I hate being the negative guy. Yeah, so I mean, listen, I understand what you're saying. I mean, yeah, you always want to have more talent. If you look at our roster versus Alabama, who Alabama has the most 5 stars in the SEC. They've got a lot. They've got it's like 20-something 5 stars, so they've got more than Georgia. But Georgia has more overall blue chip players than Alabama does. Georgia has the most in the SEC. Texas is up there as well. But either way, yeah, I mean, you always want to go out and get better players. But I think that, we've done a good job of getting some players that are underrated. And I think in a lot of spots, getting the most out of our players, so that's one way for us to look at it. And now I'm saying he needs to be a 99. Yeah, man. I mean, you could make that argument. I just, it's tough to make players 99s. And I didn't go into it thinking, hey, what's their overall grade going to end up being? I went through each spot, each spot that I had for everybody. And I'm saying, okay, how do I see them here? How do I see them there? And then what's everything break down to? So yeah, I mean, he's up there for sure. I think he might be the best cornerback in the whole doggone country. From Teen Junior. Okay, so he said he feels me on the b-ball versus football energy. Yeah, for sure. I found out so damn much, bro. Yeah, it's a totally different thing. You know what I'm saying? I was never a great basketball player, but I was able to be more physical than a lot of them, and it messed with them. Like this because they're not used to real physicality. But either way, this is Tennessee's schedule, so I'm gonna bring this thing on back over so that I can see this better, and we'll go through. So Syracuse, I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling good about that game. I already said that I've got that one as a win. That's going to be a game that we got to be physical, and Tennessee's quarterbacks, hopefully they can find their footing. Just don't turn the football over, and they have to find that confidence. If our quarterbacks find their confidence, and if they go out there and ball, we might see two quarterbacks. We might see all three play at some point this season. That's not really what I personally want, unless it's because we're blowing teams out. I want us to find one guy and for the team to kind of rally with that player. But then, we win the first game. We definitely should win the second game, and that puts us at 2-0. Then we're hosting UGA. Now, out of all the teams in the SEC, man, I would say that Georgia, for sure, they're one that doesn't have a baller playing a quarterback. And then you've got us, where we don't know what we're going to have playing a quarterback. So we're the only two teams that don't have a real true baller playing a quarterback. And a lot of these programs have several ballers playing at quarterback. So I think that could help us out, especially coming to Neyland, where we know it's going to be rocking. Actually, Tennessee set the college decibel record for what I think it was the last time that we hosted Georgia. It was like 140 decibels. So will we be able to do better than that? I think so. I think that Neyland, with the way that everything's playing out, like we talked about, it feels like it's us versus everybody. I think that our fans are going to be rabid, with Nico leaving and all of that. Like, we want to win. We're going to help our teams get a win. I think Neyland's good for, at least one turnover. In this one, hopefully it's two. I think that they've got a younger offensive line, very talented, but it's going to be young. We've got some guys that will get after the quarterback. We know what their scheme is. They're going to do the exact same stuff that they did last year. We've got a new one. So they're going to have to, find a way to stop, some of the new stuff that Tennessee's doing. I think that all those things, coming into play with this one, I think that Tennessee has a chance to actually win this. I know that it might sound crazy. They're a lot more talented than us. They've been a lot more talented than we are, but I don't think that Kirby Smart, I think Kirby Smart gets way too much credit as an actual X's and O's coach. He can build a good team, but I think that they they have a really high ceiling every year, and it feels like they're always shooting under that. I mean, listen, Kirby Smart should have, 5 or 6 national titles, dude. You know what I'm saying? Probably more than that. He's only got 2. Either way, I think that Tennessee has a chance. This is a coin flip for me. Next, we have UAB. That's a win. Then we go to Starkville to face Mississippi State. Always tough for us for some reason to go to Starkville and play Mississippi State, to go to Fayetteville and play Arkansas. But this is one that I feel like Tennessee's going to win. They're less talented this year, y'all, than they were last season. But they've got they run the same offense that Tennessee runs. This is the team that Tennessee runs, that mint front verse. I think that we're going to be able to I think that we'll be able to feast in this game. So I do think that Tennessee will win. Let's just not turn the football over, and we should come out with a victory. Next, we have Arkansas that's coming to Neyland. I think that this game is going to be rocking, right? Everyone's pissed off. At least I am. I guess I can't speak for everybody, but I'm pissed off that they beat us last season, and they almost messed up the whole daggum year, right? Listen, we were super out of shape. We talked about the offensive line banged up. It's patchwork offensive line. Guys are out of shape. You know what I'm saying? And then they're playing this funky defense that I feel like Coach Heupel bringing in some other analysts for us to figure out a way to be able to execute better versus. Hey, listen, Ole Miss runs the same offensive system that Tennessee runs. I think that they just run it better. Then versus Arkansas, they put up like 30 or 40 freaking points. So it can be done. I think that that's going to happen. Arkansas is still very talented. They've got a baller playing a quarterback, a 6'6", 240-pound baller. He can throw it all over the field. He can run. And obviously Bobby P being their OC, man, he knows how to dial them up. It's going to be a strong focus on our linebackers and safeties versus those seams. They love to run the seams. There's going to be a ton of read option stuff. So we have to play a disciplined brand of football, but I think that we are built to beat Arkansas this season. So I have that one as a win now. Then we go to Tuscaloosa versus Alabama. Man, Alabama, like we talked about, they're really, really talented, really loaded. I think especially with their skilled players, their wide receiver room, people aren't talking. People aren't saying people aren't talking. People should be talking more about the wide receiver room. I'll probably say it that way. And, they've got a lot of guys. They've got a lot of talent. I also think that their cornerbacks, they've got a lot of guys that are like 6'3", 6'4", playing a corner that can move. Typically the tall, long cornerbacks, they're not, they get beat off the line of scrimmage. They get beat down the field. Those guys look good. They've got a ton of talent. I think that the quarterback takes a step forward with the processing and all of that. Probably won't be as much quarterback runs. It's going to be more, hey, we can scheme it up down the field. And I think that that's where their offense is going to thrive at the most. That's going to be a tough game. Now, where they're weak at is with their tight ends. So it's not. This is going to be more of a cornerback game, more of a safety game, more of a pass rush game. Their tackles are not very deep. Okay, if you beat those guys up, all of a sudden we should be able to feast and hunt and get to the quarterback that's not as mobile, still mobile, but not as mobile as what we faced last season. I think that we'll be able to pin our ears back a lot more. So saying all that, saying a whole lot of different things, Tuscaloosa is not a tough place to go in and play at. I think that there's a chance that Tennessee could win this one, but right now I still have that as a loss. I just think that second year with this coach, with this system, I think he's going to do it his way. I think he's got his guys in there, and I feel like Alabama's going to be really, really good this upcoming year. Next, we get to go to Kroger Field, and they're actually really close as far as their like blue chip ratio to what Tennessee's at. I think that they've got maybe like 30-something blue chip players, which is, that sounds crazy. Tennessee's at like 44, 46, something like that. So it's pretty close. I don't remember exactly what it was last year. But either way, I think that this is a game that, of course, Tennessee should win. You know what I'm saying? Like, we should be able to win this game. And actually, there might be another team that doesn't have a real baller playing a quarterback, too. So there's actually 3 in the SEC. But for some reason, we always tend to every few years, we go up to Kroger Field on a gloomy day where it's raining and stuff, and we have a bunch of stupid turnovers, and we end up losing. So I hope that this is not that season. If we want to make it to the playoffs, we have to win that one. Then we get to host Oklahoma. This is going to be big, obviously, for Coach Heupel, I think, for the whole fan base. So Neyland's going to be rocking yet again, but they've got a baller playing at quarterback. His OC came with him from Washington State or wherever, and their offense it can be tough to stop, right? It's going to be maybe not Coach Banks' first time seeing the actual system, but it's going to be maybe kind of new to him. So how does that play a role in this game? Again, they're going to run a lot of that, tight front, mint fronts, Okie fronts. You know what I'm saying? Similar to what Georgia does and pretty much everyone does versus our offensive system. Will the new wrinkles help us out in this game? I think Oklahoma's going to be really good. They have a lot more blue chip caliber players than Tennessee does. I think that it might be like 4th or 5th in the SEC, something like that. So they're up there. They've got a lot of really good talent. And I think that they're going to be good. So that's going to be a tough one. I've got that one as a coin flip. That one's a toss-up. Obviously, the next one we should win. Then we go down to the Swamp to face Florida. That one's going to be tough. DJ Lagway is one of the best quarterbacks in this league. We saw what he did last year. He got his first, not real start, but kind of start, right? Like he gets thrown into the game versus us last year. That was his kind of like coming out party, but he's really freaking good. I don't know if he's back throwing or not, but, Florida's a very, very talented team. And going out to the Swamp, very tough place for us to play. I think that their offensive system gives Coach Banks the most trouble. And we're going to have to get pressure on them. We're going to have really good man-to-man coverage and get pressure on them and, just dial things up. And really, to me, it's going to be about what does the new quarterback do going down to the Swamp, because that's going to be the most hostile place that they go to all season long. But at this point, we should be ready for it. Either way, I got this one as a loss early on. I hate to say it, but I do. Then we have Vanderbilt. We're going to host them. And I think that we're going to win that one as well. So that's how I have it playing out, y'all. I've got us at about, I'd say probably like 10-2, something like that. Maybe. So it's just because the schedule is so light. It's so weak. I know that there's a lot of questions about all the new players that Tennessee's bringing in, but I think that with probably the weakest schedule in the whole SEC, if things fall our way, we should be good. But at the same time, the SEC is probably going to be mad at Tennessee. Not just the SEC, but the Power 4 conferences, all the other ones, the other 3. And college football probably is going to be pissed off at Tennessee. They might try to make us lose. I'm big on it. I think that they do cheat. Like we've seen it enough. Those guys think that they're the daggone mob. So they pull strings for sure. So we're going to have to overcome that. But if this team buys in, I think that we could have an outside shot to make it to the college football playoffs. And I can also guarantee you this. Next year, 2026's schedule, it's going to be the toughest in the SEC. I can almost guarantee that. All right, unless the people that are in power now end up losing power, which I don't know how realistic that is. But either way, let me try to get to these last few chats. Do we have any more coming in? This right here from Roosted931 saying GBO. You already know. This right here saying that I hope we can win more on the road this year. Yeah, the good thing is, well, is actually this is a tougher year to be on the road just based off of our schedule. It really is more about going to the Swamp. I think that we could win in Tuscaloosa, but going to the Swamp is probably going to be tough. We'll see. Have us going 9-3. Okay, I don't think that that's bad. Yeah, shoot, I could see 9-3 as well. Are you planning on going to any games? Yeah, so I'm gonna try to go to the Syracuse game. I want to go to the Georgia game. We'll let y'all know once we get closer to that time. And then right here, yes, they pull strings, but I like to think it for sure. All right, so listen, thank y'all so much for joining us. That's going to do it, and we'll be back with y'all tomorrow unless something big happens at some point today. We've got the House settlement. They were saying that might get finalized at some point this week. I feel like that might not happen unless it happens later on today, or whatever. Maybe if I don't know, they just grant the 5th year. If something big happens, we'll be back today. If not, we'll see y'all tomorrow. So as always, y'all, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.